Irina Moga, welcome to Writers in Relationship.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
It's a fun moment to have this conversation because I just got back from Toronto a few days ago and we had that just such a fun impromptu meeting. And I wonder if you can just tell the people who are watching the version of your version of how we know each other.
Yes, I came across hotspot literature and art through social media, and I felt really compelled to submit a short story to it. I ended up sending a flash fiction. Then we went to the launch, and that's how I got to meet you, Gail. And it's a relationship for which I'm very grateful. I find it very joyful, and I know it's a tremendous growth opportunity for me.
And it's new. Like we just met basically.
It's a meteoric entry into my life. It's something very sudden and very bright, and I'm glad for it.
And I have to say, because the people who are watching don't know this, that Irina was so game. Like when we found out that we both lived in Canada and we're both immigrants and blah, 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 but fairly close. I'm in Ottawa and she's in Toronto. And I don't even remember. I think you told me you were in Toronto and I asked if you were there, if you were living or just visiting. And I said, well, we're going to be in Toronto next week. Do you want to get together? And Irina said yes. How many people would say yes?
Well, it was very thrilling, to be honest with you, to be able, shortly after we made contact, to be able to speak face to face. And it was such an enchanted encounter, I have to say, for me personally, yes.
Oh, and we went to, it was a cute restaurant and then Irina insisted on paying, which it was just so, everything was so sweet and lovely. And anyway, I'm very touched by it. I'm touched by your willingness and your generosity and love, love, love that I'm getting to know your work. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with your setting, whatever that means to you.
Yeah, I've been living in Toronto for decades, and I'm very much drawn by the cityscape, especially by the downtown area. I find, I guess, the Toronto skyscrapers very interesting. The way light crawls over and glides over light surfaces, the way shadow and light mix in what consists, to me, it's somewhat of an eerie atmosphere, especially at dusk. And that's something that inspires me. I love the city, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
And does the city factor into your poetry? Like, does it appear?
It does. It does. It does. It does in a way that's organic. I think the American poet Robert Lowell used to say that my writing at times, through the threadbare art of my eye, is just a snapshot of the environment. So I find that my own threadbare art puts the city into a context that's into the background of what I write. It's an insinuation, if you'd like, of its light, of its dynamic and I would say tumultuous life.
Yeah, that's a super interesting word because there is so much tumultuousness in our cities, especially now. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with writing, like because it's I find it interesting. You're because you have a different background professionally, so I'm just curious how
Right.
that's evolved.
How it has evolved. I basically discovered in high school that writing was something that I wanted to do. It's something that I couldn't live without. It's for me, it was like breathing. Reading and writing were like breathing. And in a way, things came easily for me in terms of writing when I was in my 20s. But then due to personal circumstances and moving to Canada, lots of things happening. I went through a very long hiatus. Now that my two children um, are grown up, I have more time to dedicate to my writing, which is something very enjoyable.
And have you ever gone through any struggles in your relationship with your writing? And I'm curious about that because I have, and I'm always interested in like how people get through that.
Always. I tend to have an adversarial relationship with my own writing, which is to say, I constantly find it not enough, not good enough. I'm royally displeased by everything I put on paper and on screen. I look for flaws, for weak spots, and devise strategies to kind of eliminate what's trite out of my writing. So um, that maybe explains some of the long hiatus. It just can very demanding, I think, in terms of what I tend to write, or at least I like to think so.
And do you find is there a place for kindness and compassion in your relationship with your writing, or is it more sort of harsh and sort of old world?
It's very cruel. I'd like to be cruel to words, to sentences. I want to throw them up in the air. I want to basically just take them all apart and make something new. Uh, there is a I would say a more benevolent side of my writing, which is ending in poetry. That's what I favor and love in poetry writing. It's ending, whether it's an open ending or a closed ending. So I find a lot of poetic thinking sometimes going to it. Not just me, but I think a lot of the poets that I admire put that thinking to practice.
Do you do you feel skillful in your endings? I find endings difficult, even in fiction, but
Yes, because I like them. That's what I think. It's a kind of an enjoyable circle, vicious circle. The more you like, the more. Yes, I think I'm skilled with ending, and actually, I start with the ending in mind. Sometimes. In other cases, it just flows differently.
have you ever written several different endings? And like,
Yes,
yeah, and then like,
yes. In the end, I used to write very, I would say, tight, all the loose ends endings. But now, as I'm, more mature, not wiser, I tend to float towards open endings, which kind of strike a note of easiness rather than, kind of being focused on the meaning of it all in, tightly wound endings.
it's fascinating, and to see that evolution in yourself and in your process.
Right. I'm more accepting of open endings and of myself, probably.
What is one relationship that's very alive for you right now, and how does that impact your writing? And it can be with yourself, with your whatever. It doesn't have to be a person.
I hope you won't find this very weird, but one important relationship I have right now is with a new language that I'm trying to learn. I'm not going to name the language because I'm not nowhere where I would like to be in terms of learning. Um, so that I would say this relationship is torrid in the way that I'm fascinated by it and I'm fired up. I've always had a passion for words, for languages, for intercultural communication, and I find that this new language provides me with new vistas into things that I've never thought about. So on the flip side, it is an inspiration to me. There is obviously an opportunity cost. Every hour that I spend on cramming vocabulary takes away from everything else in my life. Uh, but I still want to pursue it. And Actually, first, the opening poem in one of my newest book is inspired by this relationship. So that is to tell how much it means to me right now.
Would you be willing to read that poem?
I would, maybe a fragment because it's a.
Okay.
So let me just go
And just
to.
to give our people who are watching, this is Irina's latest collection of poems, which is called
It's called Quantum.
Quantum.
So the poem is called Five or Six Islands. I'm just gonna read a couple of lines, not to bore the audience. Five or six islands. An hour is but a domino effect of white petals falling from trees on a day of shadows. It's scattered melodies coming from the single-mindedness of flow, flooding what's left of our awareness, breakers skidding towards the beach, or a capsule of Dandelion pappus pledged as a hostage to the wind. From the vantage point of a fortress where I'm left, binoculars in hand, useless in the face of blinding squalls, I sense a deceleration. We are besieged by snowflake variations.
Wow. Oh my gosh, thank you. Oh, that was so rich, Irina. So much imagery, and I was seeing so many things as you were reading. How how has your language learning? Can you talk a little bit about I don't know if it's even possible how it influenced the creation of that poem.
Um, so how it influenced it? It influenced it through number one, traditional music of the culture in question. So I've listened to several traditional medieval pieces of the language in question, and kind of the particular piece is called Spring Snow. It's a beautiful piece, and I can say this by a Korean artist. It's a classical piece, very much in the vein of a sonata, and it's mindfulness, and it's quiet space and expanding horizons. Uh, Kind of made me write this poem.
It's always so incredible to me when there's an art form that's different from the one you're working in that has that kind of influence and that perspective shifting effect where you're sort of immersed in this other form and it leads you into a new way of relating to your form.
Yeah, I've read the book of an actor sometime, and I recall this sentence which kind of stayed with me. An artist needs to be surrounded by forms of arts each and every day. So I find that true.
Are there ways that you bring other forms into your life, in your regular life?
I do like to listen a lot to music, and I appreciate a lot visual arts, ceramics. And in the past, I was lucky enough to uh, work together with a very close friend of mine, a friendship that lasts for decades, and created a book of poetry combined with graphics, with drawings. So that's how I bring art into my life. I'm trying to understand modern trends in music, in art. So
It's very, very, very Interesting. What do you think are some important relationships, other than other art forms, which I think is something nobody's ever talked about, but I think that is really fascinating. But what are other relationships that are important for a writer?
So in this context, I would like to suggest that one important relationship that any writer can have is with aesthetics. Aesthetics, as we know it, is the exploration of this tension between what's beautiful and what's ugly. And it's in majority of cases a construct that the society puts behind it. The German philosopher Immanuel Kant used to say that beauty comes from a disinterested pleasure. Well, things have changed a lot since Kant, and modern and postmodern artists and writers find beauty in things that are absurd, grotesque, in everything that throws up in the air the norms of what we consider useful or beautiful. So back to the relationship, where that's what I think, where a writer position himself or herself on this continuum between the ugly and the beautiful influences a lot his or her own writing, and more importantly, influences their followers and their readership. That's an important relationship. What do you consider beautiful? What do you consider ugly when you write? Where you are? Are you moving towards the beautiful? Are you moving towards the ugly? Are you reuniting the two?
It's really, really interesting. And by the ugly, are you talking about the not necessarily an ugly description, but a description of something that's ugly? The ugly content?
The ugliness of everyday life, the ugliness in our environment, in ourselves, in the things that we say, in the things that we write. What is ugly? What is beautiful? Where are we when we write? Where do we find ourselves in this question mark? And how does this position influence our art? I will give you an example. For instance, let's say, 18th century, 19th century, um, the French playwright Molière used to ridicule what he called the ridiculous precious ladies, because they have taken beauty and baubles to an extent that made them absolutely ridiculous. So going towards the extreme of the beautiful, and then that's the extreme of the beautiful. It falls into ridiculousness if you try to write beautifully or write accord to whatever you were taught would make sense in poetry or in a short story. And then there's the ugliness. Maybe there is some fascination with the ugliness, its darkness, um, its deep-seated fear that we have, the deep-seated fear that we have for the ugly that may come from inside us, just like the same type of psychic approach, the same archetypes that move us on the two extreme, the ugly and the beautiful.
Are there things that are so ugly and horrific that you would never write about them?
I don't think so. But based on the day that I would write and where I find myself on this infinite axis, I may shift perspective. I may avoid. Um, but who knows? I may be attracted to them.
It's interesting because I'm always drawn toward the things that people won't talk about
And that influences your writing.
deeply.
That influences your readership even more than you can think.
Yeah, let's talk about readers. I mean, that's a nice kind of liaison into that. So, like, do you have a relationship with your, I mean, it's just, again, this is a question like if somebody asked me, what's your relationship with your readers? I don't even know how to answer that.
It's a difficult question, and I'm not sure I can answer it. I will give you my 2 cents of the relationship. So, for me, every reader that appreciates poetry is someone that I want to hold on because they're not, the market for poetry is not that large, just to use a euphemism. So, for this potential reader that I cherish very much and would like to embrace and hold forever, my thinking is to create a reading experience. So I don't just want to, throw out a couple of pages. I want to create an experience for the short time that a reader reads poetry. What is happening in their psyche, in their mind as they, go through these words? So for me, it's important that I put out the very strong cathartic effect that poetry has. Not a lot of people realize this, but poetry has a profound cathartic effect on our psychics. It provides us with mindfulness, it heals us. So, what's important first and foremost for me is for readers to experience that healing that poetry gives you, to be to through reading poetry, mine or somebody else's, that readers get that serenity, that lightheartedness that catharsis brings, and also helps them become more focused, more self-aware, more self-confident. This is why I write poetry.
That's an amazing and extremely thoughtful approach to, I mean, and it is it's a relationship because you're taking a larger responsibility with regards to what you want them to experience. It's not just picking up a book.
That's right. That's right. I want them to feel the mindfulness, to feel the space and the serenity that poetry anchors us in.
Yeah, that's really terrific. A friend of mine who's a theater artist would talk about when you invite someone into the theater, into your theater, your not necessarily the space, but your play that you've created, that it's like inviting someone into your home and that you're creating that experience and you want to make sure that they have good directions and you want to make sure that they know where to go and that they have a place to put their boots and there's a lot of attending and a lot of details and thinking, taking the perspective of that person when you're perceiving your own work, which can be very difficult, I think.
It's difficult because we're all different. We're all different. We're moved by various things. But by the same token, poetry is a universal language that comes to us from centuries, thousands of years. It's the most intuitive and it's the easiest form of art because it speaks to our soul. It's simple, it's easy to grasp, and it gives us an insight into the mystery of who we are and who we want to be.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Um, would you have any words of wisdom for perhaps some of our unpublished writers or writers who are newer in their practice about any sort of approach to their writing or their relationship with their writing?
So the one advice I have is take everything with a grain of salt. Um, Basically, which I'm trying to say is it's learn as much as you can from the writers that you admire, from everyone that comes around you, But once you've learned that, try to be disrespectful to the norms and the concepts that, the general, I would say, wisdom of the time throws at you in terms of literary constructs. Try to challenge that. Be innovative, throw everything to the garbage. Don't be afraid to start anew. Be innovative, take risks, and just have no fear of going where you think it best that you're able to express what's important to you.
What about the thing that's kind of the little person sitting on your shoulder saying, "But that's not good enough. That's not good." What do we do with that?
I think we encourage that person. Okay, if that's not good enough, tell me what is good enough. What would make it better in your opinion? It's not good enough. Okay, it's not good enough, but what would it make it better? Tell me.
So have a dialogue with our critic and
Have
not
a
be,
dialogue.
yeah.
Yes, solicit the feedback from others. And sometimes feedback is very unpleasant, like we hate it. But, 3 or 4 months down the line is maybe, you know. I remember when recently I got a rejection for a short story. Actually, got a rejection. And I opened the email, I read it and deleted it. 3 or 4 days later, like, where's that email? I need to read it. So there we go.
Yeah, that really is. It is so hard, and yet if we don't allow ourselves to at least perceive it or to see it, we're shooting. It's like we're cutting off our nose to spite our face. What tell us what you're working on now, and maybe a little bit. I'll get some links, but if people want to explore your work, just tell us a little bit about how we can do that.
So what I'm working on right now is a book of poetry. Um, and I think I'm gonna change things around with this book of poetry. I don't have a clear idea, but I do have some guidelines as to what things I want to change and throw throw away what I've been doing for something new. So poetry, one book, and then I'm trying to move towards fiction, and this is why I'm really lucky to have met you. I think there's an old, Asian proverb that says, when you know, when the pupil is ready, the master appears. So it's proven right in my case. So there we
I'm not a master, just so as anyone's.
go. But what I was saying
Yeah, yeah,
is,
the connection.
I am prepared now to start writing fiction, and all of a sudden you appear. And,
The opportunities for fiction writing are appearing. Yeah.
you appear in a very, unexpected way. And so things kind of get rolling.
So, and hold up your book just again because I want people to have a nice. So it's Quantum, and it literally just released. Is that correct?
That's right. It was released last week.
Okay. And who's the publisher?
The publisher is Dark Winter Press, which is owned by Suzanne Craig Whitlock, and she is really a wonderful writer herself, and a great editor. So I recommend it to everybody. Dark Winter Press.
And can we find where can we find if we want to purchase a copy? Where can we find it?
So you can find all my books, everything that I've written at Amazon. And if you want to, read some of my poems, just search for them online. I have some links on my website. So yeah,
And you have a website, and I'll provide those links for people.
it's under construction as always, but
Like everything that we do. Um, Anything in closing that you want to say in terms of writing, the intersection of writing and relationships?
um, I think relationships are a cardinal point in our lives for not only moving us forward, but making us understanding better the world around us. So the more relationships you have, the more enriching uh, your adventure in life becomes.
I could not agree more. Thank you so much, Irina Moga. It's
Thank
been such a pleasure.
you for everything, and I wish you a very nice summer.
You too.